I'm anticipating also us to hold this as a resistance as well, because we got a nice clean close below that level with a wick to fill. We already created a top wick over here, so I'm anticipating us to stay below this level. But I don't like how this candle is ranging a little bit.
Sorry, real quick, does anyone know how to fix this issue on YouTube? It said that it's scheduled, but I'm trying to go live. I clicked confirm and go live on
Maybe
Streamlabs.
stop the stream and just restart it.
I tried doing that. So right now on my Streamlabs it says live, but when I go onto YouTube, it said that it's scheduled.
Okay.
It's not scheduled.
That's strange.
You're live.
The new one works too for you?
Yeah, if I go on YouTube, I can see it.
That's weird because it's not working on my end.
And just restart it.
Alright, there you go. Cool. Alright, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, it's all good. Everyone is saying that you're live here in the chat too.
Alright, perfect. Yeah, I don't know why on my YouTube it says that it's scheduled.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll show you guys later. It's fine.
So, two things over here with this as well. First of all, I'm anticipating the volume too. So if you guys pay attention to New York and you guys trade New York pretty often, you know that we get some good volume between 7:30 and 8 o'clock, and more specifically 7:45 and 8 o'clock. Second thing that I wanted to pay attention to is, does anybody over here utilize the lower time frames? Just like you would the 30-minute. We actually took this like right here. So these time frames are the same exact thing as the, there you go, I know Jaden does. The same exact thing as the 30-minute. So you're still creating lower highs and lower lows, right? So one thing that I would be looking at to manage risk is either a close above this level. This is how you kind of manage risk on the lower time frames as a scalper. If you get some kind of a retest right here, breaking this bearish trend and continuing up, this is where you can manage risk a little bit sooner than you would if you were, let's say, looking at the 30-minute and waiting for the 30-minute to do something, or the 15-minute to do something. Now you could see prices creating these lower highs over here, breaking supports so far, and continuing down with that New York volume. See what I'm saying? Now again, if we start closing it back above this level over here and retesting, that's where you can manage risk. And now you can see 739, we're getting a nice volume push. Now this is where you utilize these lower time frames. We do something in our group called AARs where you're writing to yourself about the session. Now, this is where you would write like 739, we got a nice volume push on the 1 minute where price is creating lower lows, lower highs, and you're writing just about the session. It's like a little personal diary. Now let's go back to the lower time frames. The 5-minute closed with no bottom wick over here, which 5-minute is a weak time frame, but we are still looking good over here on these lower time frames, or these higher time frames. I'm just kind of still pushing. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to manage risk, lower my stop loss above this wick right here. All right. Now we're around getting close to 10 pips over here, so I'll be managing soon.
Now the excuse me. The key here is right before the news comes out, especially it's Governor Bailey and Powell speaking. Obviously, the market's going to react heavily to what they're saying, right? Whatever they say impacts the strength of the currency and how the investors and consumers will look at the currency as well. So specifically, Governor Bailey is talking about emerging challenges for central bank governors in a digital world. So it's not, 100% about what's happening in the next week, what's happening in the next month or something like that, but it's more about, what's going to be happening in the future, in the economic outlook in that sense. And then Powell is pretty much talking about the same exact thing. So regardless of like whatever the topic is, the market does react to it, and it's right before the market session as well. The market session is going to open up in like 20 minutes. You want to be securing your trades, you want to be going to break even, and if you're not comfortable with going break even, then look at some of these lower time frames and try to understand, like, structure wise, where does it make sense for you to place your stop loss a little bit tighter, so then if price were to reverse and continue in the opposite direction, then that structure would be broken and you'd rather be taken out right at the break of the structure instead of, kind of hoping that it's just going to retest some of those higher levels and then go back into your direction.
Yep. Good point. So yeah, I just secured 80% at 8 pips. Stop losses at break even right now. Again, Sharma just pointed it out too. You're gonna have them talking. Whenever they talk, you're gonna see a lot of volatility. So you just want to be careful with that. Plus, like this, I would have been a little less conservative on this if we got a true retest, right? Again, you have certain rules for certain setups and stuff like that. This was just an impulse trade after a strong bearish candle. Not to mention, like, I didn't get any of this move over here. If I got a lot of this move, I wouldn't be as conservative. I'd just let it run. But like this, I entered basically at the low. But I entered, it wasn't like a dumb trade. It was, we waited for a close below that level on the lower time frames here. And we got the top wick. We waited for that. We knew we were having volume, multiple confirmations, cleaner move to the left over here, and a clean path right back down to 159,500 psychological number.
Did you close out your DJ trade already, the buy?
Oh yeah, I had my stumbling. I I had my take profit at 160 yesterday. So when I hit, I was out.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was actually pointing this out when you were in the bathroom, but you have the weekly candle, as you guys could see, we did push all the way up to 161, around 161, 200, we'll call it, right? But you see this rejection of 160. It's a little confusing for you guys right now, but as you can see, we tapped into like 161 over here, but this is 160. You see how we're rejecting it?
Yep.
Right?
I got my full TP at 161, 100. So it was like a nice,
so
yeah, it was like
I love those trades.
It was like a nice 362 pip trade.
Love it. Yeah, I love those trades because, they always say like there's never going to be that perfect trade, the perfect entry or the perfect exit. But I've had multiple times. I think we talked about this, or I talked about this on my live. But I've had trades, especially scalps, where this is even more impressive as a swing trade, but as a scalp, where you close exactly where price reverses.
Yep.
Right, and that's like one of the best feelings as a trader, is being able to do that and like call the market perfectly. Now, again, a lot of you guys like to trade multiple pairs, like 3, 4, 5 pairs. You're not going to get that intuition with your pair unless you have years of experience with all 4 or 5 of those pairs. Right, so that's why you want to focus on 1 or 2, because now you start getting that intuition with the pair, and you can really predict where price is going to go and how it's going to react and all that stuff. Right, but what I was pointing out here was this is 160. This was my take profit. You guys could see us finally rejecting that area right now. Now we got that last push during Asian last night, right? And now we're starting to reject. You can see the daily over here starting to reject this area right here. All right, and we may be closing below, it looks like, on the daily.
So was your TP based off the daily, weekly, or a different time frame?
Was it?
What was your 160 TP? Was it based off the daily, weekly, or another time frame?
That was based on the daily. I think we had this wick over here, which we pointed out on that session over there.
Yeah.
This wick right here, you also have this whole area right here.
Yep.
And I pointed this out on the 4-hour as well, where you have like a hard rejection of that area too. not a hard rejection, but like a clear zone right here. And that's why I marked it off. It's like a clear zone. You got these wicks over here, but more importantly, you have like this area right here. Like this is 160.
Yep.
Right there. You have like a zone right in this area. If you want to draw it like this right here. You see that previous support price wicking into that area. We also held like a resistance in this area before we continued down right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's why I have my TP there. I figured like how big you start to compare candles too. Like how much bigger can these wicks get or these candles get on the monthly? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at some of the bigger candles here, right? And then more recently, you got this one, this one, this one, and you're trying to compare the bodies. So my thought is like we can push all the way up to like 160, and we're going to start to stall out a little bit and maybe close around 160 over here, but close as like one of the biggest candles. It's not gonna. We're not just gonna skyrocket and all of a sudden like close like a crazy bullish candle right here, like the biggest we've ever had. Right? It's probably unlikely.
I think it's the same as any other time frame that you would be trading this on, where, yeah, like you could compare the candle bodies and all of that, but it's also what's the price doing around those levels. So,
Yeah.
for example, when price started pushing up, like let's say July of 2021, after it last made that support here on the monthly and continued pushing up, that was the market. It had already collected orders, and that's where it was pushing up from, right? It had already collected orders at this point, and then once it broke above that consolidation, pulled back, created support, and continued pushing. So the market here is running off of optimism, right? And the yen also being weak. And then now the consolidation that we just now start to break out of, that was market collecting orders again because there were so many mixed fundamentals. So you just need in the next like 8 days or whatever, all we really need to see is price closing around this area. That's it. Closing out of the zone. And then like any other time frame, what do we wait for when price breaks out of consolidation? Some sort of retest and continuation up, right? So it's the same thing here, where even if price does pull back all the way down to like 157,500 area, which is like, somewhere around here, then we just wait for a bottom wick and then a continuation back up. I think it's the same as any other time frame. I set my TP based off the weekly actually, because it was a lot cleaner. So the zone that you made on the 4 hour and daily, I just made the same zone on the weekly time frame, and it was between 161 and 162.
Beautiful. Yes, I would actually look forward to a retest of 158
Mm-hmm.
over here. Let me get rid of all this stuff. I hate when my chart is like this, but a lot of these levels are important. But I would love a pullback down to 158 over here, support held, and then we continue back up with a nice strong monthly candle or a weekly candle over here with a wick to fill. We could continue right back up.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually stopped at break even.
I mean, it also makes sense because off the daily and also the weekly, we've had massive push up. So it makes sense to come back into some of these areas, especially on the daily time frame, to retest and then continue pushing.
Mm-hmm. 100%. So I was stopped at break even, and that's why I secured down here, right? Not exactly, and also I could have waited for 10 pips right there, but again, I didn't like how like some of the lower time frames over here were closing with no bottom wick. So you know that you're gonna start to stall out, especially when you get like a candle like this, right? We just close right there, very strong candle, reaction over here. So you know you're gonna get some kind of a retest right over here. So now we're creating another lower high, and we could be continuing right back down to this area. See what it looks like on the. So the 5 minute, very strong bullish candle up to this area over here. Now we're just pushing down. So now if you miss that move, if you miss any of this move here, wait for this support to break and retest. and then you could continue right back down, filling these wicks with a clean move to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone copy?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, awesome.
Yes, sir.
Good shit. All right. I honestly could have left my stop loss kind of like right around here. And look, this is what you journal, right? You write these things down to yourself where it's like, all right, I could have left my stop loss somewhere over here. When I moved it to break even, I was contemplating not doing that. It's just like we got 8 o'clock coming around the corner, and we know that we're pretty overextended here, so we could get some kind of a pullback, which would be fine. But I could have been safe just staying in. But I'm content with the 8 pips. Not going to sweat it or anything like that. You beat the market, right? That's one thing that you could say you did. If anybody else did anyone else take that?
I did not, but I was here when you were breaking that down. So I just closed out my GJ trade, and then I'm just gonna wait for it to drop down even further, and then look for potential buys. But I am in the gold trade though.
Nice. All right, we're gonna break down gold right now.
That same setup stuff.
Donnie, good shit, man.
Yes.
We got Catherine. I don't know if Kat, did you say yes you got it or yes you understood? I know Jaden, I think you got it, right? You like those lower time frames. Miles, good shit. Daniel, awesome. Nice to see Miles on the session. All right, let's get into gold over here. So gold, again, same story. If you guys want to know some of the history of the moves over here on gold, this is where you want to go back to that weekly breakdown that we do. And it's on YouTube. You can also watch my stream on Monday, which is on my YouTube channel as well, which breaks down everything on gold as well. So right now, as you guys can see, something similar, we're getting that reaction to the all-time highs, right? Let me make this black. Getting the reaction to the all-time highs over here where we finally reached. Why did we reach that? We had a lot of fear in the market. Ukraine-Russia conflict, right? So we pushed all the way up to this area, but then what happened a couple of weeks ago, or last week? Was it last week they raised rates?
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
The 16th, yeah.
15th, okay. Oh, yeah. So there you go. Last week. So last week, you had the anticipation of increasing rates, and then they actually did, which pushed us all the way back down to 1910. Previous candle body highs over here to the left. All right? Looking at the weekly. Weekly looks nice. Very clean candle bodies now. As far as the weekly goes. But ended up tapping into this area. Candle got weaker, right? We actually got weaker after 1910. Once we reached 1910, ended up closing below this area, but then we ended up pushing through. But now this candle is a lot weaker. This candle also closed with no top wick. So we ended up pushing up right away and then coming right back down to close around that area. This candle created a very small top wick, passed below that candle. Very clean bearish candle coming all the way back down to 1910, but we're still holding a support in this area, right? Previous candle body highs to the left. Looking at the daily now. So the daily, looking at some of the recent price action. When did you enter gold, VJ? I'm waiting for the breakout for that 4-hour consolidation. That's KB.
That was taken in pre-London session, KB. Which I'll break down, don't worry. I'll do that for you guys.
She's going to keep it all to herself.
No. Even the GJ session, or the trade, I sent it out in Asian session and just like held on to it. It was like a 4 pip stop loss.
Okay. Hold on 1 second, sorry.
It's all good, but to kind of support the fundamentals of weak GJ right now, which is going to kind of help you guys understand that we might get those continued sells into the session. So there's news that came out that the latest inflation shock adds to the pressure of that quantitative easing that they're kind of trying to support still. So they're trying to increase the interest rates, but again, they haven't completely finished the quantitative or pulling back all the money that they've been putting out. already. Instead, what we're seeing is that Britain's inflation rate surged to a new 30-year high of 6.2%, which is only adding more pressure because we've seen that, UK already has an issue with, or all across the country or the world, all the countries have issues with inflation, right? Everyone's kind of dealing with it. Also, high energy prices and all of that. We also saw that there are issues with living standards in UK as well. So now all this is doing is simply adding on to it. And it's going to continue to increase. The inflation is going to continue to increase as long as the war continues, obviously.
Yep. Sorry to deal with a client. Okay, so more recent price action on on gold. 1910, that critical level. You also got 1900. Obviously, it's a very psychological number. And you have 1920 over here, which we're currently holding as support. But over here, you had a nice push up to, we're going to break this down from the start of the Ukraine-Russia conflict. So we had a nice higher low formed over here after prices pushing up over here, higher low. We ended up rejecting this level over here once and twice and 3 times actually. And then we had the Russia-Ukraine, Russia actually invaded. That was an Asian session, I believe, Wednesday Asian session or Monday Asian session. I forget. But I just remember it was a beautiful move on gold that we caught. Mm-hmm. Now, price ended up rejecting that level, closing below 1910. This candle tried continuing up, but flipped bearish, creating the top wick. But again, we respected this support, right? Now, what told me that we were going to exit this move, exit this consolidation, even though we got the close below that 1910 level, was a solid bullish candle with a wick to fill right here, right? This candle tested that area. Also, again, if you want to look at these EMAs, use that EMA as a support, flip bullish, fill that wick, and close a very strong bullish candle. Now, moving over to 1910 or 1920 over here, you have that support being retested, right? Previous resistance, support held, and price just taking off over here, all the way up to this area. Then we had some rumors that there was some talks going on between Russia and Ukraine, where we created that historical high, or retested the historical high. This candle created a top wick, flipped bearish. We had some less fear in the market, but also buyers took profit, sellers took over, and then also we were coming up to the week where we've been looking forward to this for months, as far as the central bank actually increasing rates. So a lot of that tied in together is what actually corrected this entire move up from 1920, right? So now what we had was, let's say this didn't happen yet, right here, it looked like we were actually holding a support right here, 1920, and starting to push up after grabbing liquidity, retesting this area over here, and starting to push up right over here, right? But what I was saying was, to my group, and I think to you guys too, beware of this level right here, because we could very well end up rejecting it. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. All right, we're just kind of consolidating in this area. So I would wait for price to break out of this area before you really take anything, because everything is sideways. You have no trending market right now, right? This was a trending market. This was a trending market. Even down here, trending market, until we kind of consolidated over here. But now we're consolidating. Now, if we get some more fear in the market and you get a candle like this, and what is that similar to? Something like that. You could very well see like a bottom wick formed on the next candle, fill that wick, and continue back up, right? But I think with the next rate hike, you're going to actually end up getting, flipping bearish and continuing down. Or unless that's already priced in, I could see us, breaking this support and continuing back down, right back down to 1830, which is that critical level that we've been looking at. Right, so let's see if 1910, 1920 ends up holding support over here. But until then, you have no idea what's going to happen. Right, price is just kind of, it is holding support, but it's also holding resistance. So you got to ask yourself, is this worth trading it?
Just to add on to that a little bit, you also have to understand that with increasing interest rates, automatically it's not a good thing for a currency, right? Because we just kind of talked about how Bank of England, for example, they increased the interest rates, but now we're still getting news about how there's being more pressure put onto the consumers, right? And if you increase the interest rates more, and let's say your economy is not ready for it, then if anything, it just adds to your issues and your troubles, right? And so it's the same exact thing with the US as well, where we just increased the interest rates, not as much as the UK, but we increased the interest rates, right, by a small amount. And now, if we say that, hey, by the next meeting in May, we're going to try to increase the interest rates even more, double of what we just did in March, we need to pay attention to how the consumers are already kind of reacting to that. If they're not comfortable with it, and you're going to see signs of that already in those low impact economic data that we get anyways, with like consumer sentiment and like businesses, PMI and retail sales, all that type of stuff, you're already going to see all that data. You're already going to see how the markets are kind of, or I guess the economy's kind of reacting to increasing interest rates. And if you see those numbers still kind of fluctuating, they're not strong like, we are being told that they are, then you won't see that optimism that you would normally see in gold. If anything, price could just continue breaking up if we don't see a strong economy with the interest rate hikes.
100%. So right now, you can actually see like using some of these EMAs, 50 EMA, 200 EMA, and the 10, they're all kind of meeting up right over here. So everything's kind of undecided of where it's going. You do have, let's see if you guys pay attention to trend lines, have like this trend right here. The price has been bouncing off this level multiple times over here. So now we're starting to meet up with that level, right? But we're also creating higher lows. Actually, I'll use one of these. So right now we're creating higher lows but lower highs, right? So it's kind of undecided. Looking at the 1 hour, we'll probably get rid of some of these. There you go. Now you can see why we're getting some of that bounce off that level. We had this previous consolidation right here. Price ended up creating lower lows over here, and now we're coming right back up to meet up with it, to retest this consolidation over here, and now we could be continuing right back down. But right now, looking more at the levels, I'm looking right here. Can we be holding support in this area, or are we going to break below this area and close below to continue down, or are we going to hold it as support and continue right back up? More recent support and resistance, obviously you have this resistance right here. That's a scalper. So you got to see this is a very critical level that we're sitting at right now. Hour just opened, right? We ended up rejecting this area last hour, right? Creating that bottom wick and then rejecting. This candle kind of created a top wick, not really, and it's starting to push into this area. So are we going to continue down, passing the low of that previous wick right here, and continue down into here, maybe into this area right here? But all these ranges are very small and everything is sideways. So you just got to be careful. Like this was a nice move. I think, Sharma, you got this, right?
Yeah, I got that move up.
So there's certain moves and ranges that you could be playing, and certain ones that you just want to stay out of. So, you see the higher lows formed over here. As a scalper, she anticipated price to hold support right here. You got the bullish close, and I guess she took this up at least to this level right over here to retest that level.
It was a 1934.500, around like 100 pip trade.
Nice.
The entry was like where is this? 1922.900.
I'm actually looking at GJ again.
Mm-hmm.
You guys want to go back? The 1 hour candle created a top wick in the beginning of the 1 hour. Now again, Bailey's speaking right now, so you might want to be aware of that. But if we pass the low of this wick, I'm wondering if we just continue down and kind of mirror the same candle that we just had right here.
No, absolutely, because once you break below that, It's all clean traffic coming all the way down at the very minimum to around 158, 800.
Yep.
Right, so you have clean moves. But what I also wanted to say when you were breaking down gold right now was what you have on the daily time frame, the trend line. I found that interesting because mine is a little bit different, like how I saw that. I saw it as simply price trying to break out of the bullish structure and then push back down, but it's consolidating right now. So instead of like a classic retest that we see, we're seeing consolidation.
You saying this trend line?
Yeah, so what I see that as is, yeah, there you go. So I saw this as the bullish structure, right? And when price breaks out of the bullish structure, usually we get some form of a retest. So that's what I saw that as. But this is kind of in that area where you're waiting for price to break out of that little consolidation. And then once it breaks the low, then there's really nothing stopping you from coming all the way down to the zone or even lower after some sort of a retest here.
Yeah, that trend line that I drew was actually based on really like the lower time frames. This is my bad. This wasn't even really like a trend line. GJ is actually breaking the low over here. So can we continue back down, back into this range over here and continue bearish? No.
I would want to see price completely break below the previous wick. Yeah, just continue a bit more and then continue pushing.
Okay. Cool. So I'm just going to, using some of my profits, stop loss above the 1 hour wick, anticipating at least these wick fills right here. Make sense, guys? About 6 pips in profit.
Does anyone have any questions at all?
Jonathan's in. Good job, buddy. Did you grab that first one? Right. People send the charts. I like that. That's how you guys get better. Nice. So you grabbed the original move. I was actually looking at this before the stream. I was just getting ready for the stream and everything. This is nice. Now, the only thing is you do have the volume. You just want to make sure that you have, I wish I could like zoom into this, but from here, your entry to this area right here, you just want to make sure you have enough room and make sure that you do have the volume over here coming down. Because sometimes you'll get caught in that, and this will end up being a consolidation, and you'll just kind of range in here, especially with this area right here. Right, but I like it, especially after this candle right here. For the wick to fill. As long as you get that volume.
I think even from a technical perspective, that's a good move down because there's already a retest below that 160 and let's say 100 area. And then a push down from there.
Here's an impulse entry. Good job, Borga. 159,684. Good shit. Yeah, Jane, yeah, you took the trade with me before, right? So now we retraced a little bit, came back to entry. That's okay, because we'll just monitor this move. Stop loss is above the 1 hour, so it should be safe. But if we start holding support in this area, we got a nice close on the 5 minute with a wick to fill, but it did close above this level. So we got a push and then a rejection right here. So this is where you just got to monitor it. But I think we should get a wick fill and continue down with the volume that we have right now at 8 o'clock and continue through. 1 hour, 1 minute came right back up to this area. So let's see if the 1 minute holds resistance right here. And this is what you do as a scalper. You're able to read every single time frame. Not that you don't see me taking trades based on the 1 minute, do you? You see me taking trades based on the 1 hour and the 30 minute. But I use the lower time frames over here to manage risk without micromanaging your trade, without getting too spooked. by these time frames. You got to have certain rules for these time frames as far as like what you're going to manage and how you're going to manage it. Hope that makes sense. But we're still creating lower lows, lower highs. Got a nice strong 1 hour candle close. Only thing is this 1 hour candle did close above this level. I wish it closed below that level. And then we created this top wick and then flip below to continue down. But we should be okay. Because the 1 hour just opened and we already created that top wick. And it's a nice rejection wick. It's not like a little tiny one.
Usually on the 15-minute time frame, my rule is that if the candle's about to close and it's the last 5 minutes, then I just wait for that candle to completely close and then the next one to start forming. So here, for example, when I'm looking at, when I'm looking at the 15-minute candle here, so it did push back up into the zone and then it's coming back down, right? So that tells me that there is still some bearish volume here. It's just that on the current candle, for me personally, it's kind of better to wait for the next 2 minutes to kind of pass by, and then the next candle to make some sort of a top wick and continue pushing. Because the fluctuation is pretty much telling me that we're still collecting orders in this candle. We still have the bearish volume. See how we're still pushing down with the volume? But there's not enough volume for me to continue pushing and turn this scalp into like any sort of day trade or like a swing trade just yet.
You said, okay, there's not enough.
Not on this 15-minute candle. So I just wait for the next like 2 minutes, wait for this 15-minute candle to close. And then we're already, as long as we close below this zone, it's perfectly fine. Wait for some sort of a retest, whether that's like a break and retest, basic one like we see with the candle closes, or top wick rejection continuation down.
100%. All great points. Hope you guys on YouTube are getting value out of this. All right, so I'm at 11 pips. I'm just gonna. I'll take a little piece out of this. Little piece. Beautiful.
I also want to note out another thing, just like noticing like how you're trading right now. So we usually say like in your trading plan to create rules, right? So like how many entries are you allowed and that type of stuff. So right now pretty much Stefanos, this is your second entry, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So even in that, this is his second entry in the same session, but there's like rules that he's still following, right? So a lot of people, what they tend to do is if you take the first entry and it plays out, then they're like, all right, it's perfectly fine. Like I'm not, trading any more or anything like that, which is cool too, right? It comes down to your rules. And then some people, they have that, well, I'm going to allow myself 2 attempts. So even in that, you have to kind of have those subcategories or questions that you want to be asking yourself, which is here, for example, Stefanos had both winning trades, right? Where you took some partials and then you moved to break even and all of that. And then some people have like conditions that if my first trade doesn't work out, then that's the only way that I'm taking another trade, right? As another attempt. But if that doesn't work out either, then I'm done for the day. So then those are 2 ways that you can kind of approach this 2 attempt to your trade or to your entry process.
100%.
Or your second one could be your scaling, right? So in the first one here, for example, you took partials and then you got out at break even, right?
Yeah, I actually want to go over this in 2 seconds. I actually just see with the 15-minute candle closing with no bottom wick like that, we could very well get a nice push, bounce off this area, and then retrace back up to this area. So I just closed another little 25% as soon as that candle closed the way it did. Now, to your credit, exactly what you said. You got to have rules when it comes to your session, or you're just going to be taking random trades and taking trades you don't plan and planning trades you don't take. And that's something that you don't want to be doing. You don't want to let the market take control of all your emotions and basically take you over, where you're just all over the place and you just feel controlled. You don't want to be like that. You want to have certain rules. So what I always say is I have 2 opportunities every single morning to take a trade, right? I don't have to take those opportunities, but I know that I can only take 2 opportunities to trade. I actually got rid of my take profit, by the way. So just let this thing go, but I am at break even. So that's like one thing that you guys want to keep in mind is like when you come to the market with that in mind, it's very powerful, but you got to be able to stick to it. That's the key. You could say that all you want, but as long as you stick to it, then you're solid. So two opportunities. How are you going to take these? What opportunities are you going to take them on? Are they going to be a setup you haven't seen before, or maybe you've only seen once, and you're like, everyone else is taking the trade. Maybe I got to take the trade. Don't let that happen. Like just because you're in a group or just because you're in like a live session with other people doesn't mean you have to abide or follow what everyone else is doing. You got to be able to control your own emotions and not do that. And I think it's good practice. I think if you have that problem, you have good practice to stay in a live session and just sit there and watch what other people are doing and not being, so tied to what other people are doing and just sticking to your own rules and being like, you know what, that is a good trade. I'm going to take that. Or I don't really like that trade. I'm not that comfortable with it. So I'm not going to take it. I'm just going to sit on my hands and watch.
I think the best thing that I've probably done in like my trading career is back testing. We emphasize it a lot, but honestly, you back test enough times. Like we do it every single week, like in my group, right? And all the setups that we see, it's just you've seen it so many times you could already tell where price is headed. Not in just a simulation session, but even in the live markets. Like there's so many setups that we've seen on the 15-minute time frame, 30-minute time frame, when there's NFP and interest rates coming out, even 5-minute time frame, right? Or hourly, daily, whatever, you name it. When you back test a lot, like you will see those setups. And so that's something that you can put into your rules because that's what's going to help you become better as well.
100%. And then KB, what you were just saying over here, I missed the GJ buy due to other issues, but I ain't fussed. I know there will be plenty of opportunities now that we broke out in the higher time frame consolidation. So that's a great way to look at it. That's exactly how I always look at every move that I miss, and I still miss moves. We all miss moves, right? But the thing is, like, and you could let something, that little pissed attitude real quick. Let it out. Like it's fine. It's like, damn, I just missed that. It's okay to be disappointed in yourself, right? Especially if you weren't paying attention or whatever the case may be. But it's okay to have that little emotion like pissed. But do not act on that emotion. Do not take a FOMO trade, right? Again, it's okay to be disappointed in yourself. You go back and journal it. Say, okay, I'm not going to miss this trade again. And I'm going to study this, how it's happened before in the past, when we got that push, when it happened, like this move right here, right? And you just study it, and you see how you could have caught it in the past, and over the next 3 or 4 times that you see the setup, there's odds are that you're going to probably end up catching it, and maybe the 3rd time, 4th time, and that's fine. That's where experience comes in, and you always got to adopt that good mentality. Where I talk about it in my course, where like this goes for anything in life. If you guys hit adversity, you have to say good, cool, whatever. Like you lost an interview for your job, cool. I just learned an opportunity for me to get better at interviews, right? I just found out there's another opportunity or another technique of me where I can sell myself on this interview so that the next time I'll get this job, right? Missed a trade, good. Right? Another opportunity to learn. Right? And as long as you can keep doing that and embrace the suck, embrace like things that happen to you in life, they're happening for you, not to you. They're happening so that you can learn from it. And that's the mentality that you have to have in life, where you guys are not going to be a successful trader or businessman, businesswoman, or anything. A successful parent, successful son, daughter, person, anything.
I'm kind of proud to say though that a lot of like KB, like since KB's the one who asked the question or like made the statement, him, but along with like a lot of other people that are part of the group or whatever, I've seen the transition in them of like going from, okay, like I just missed this move, man, like how do I catch this? Maybe I should like switch to a different session, that kind of stuff, to being like, well, it wasn't part of my session, the move happened, cool, but I know that there's going to be other opportunities, right? That mentality switch was, I think, the hardest part for a lot of people, but once it clicks, then you're kind of chilled out, regardless of, like, you know, whatever's happening in the market, whether you caught, like, that move or not, because you understand that in this market, you could buy and sell. So, like, why would you stress about, you know, one missed move when you can catch the retracement of it? Even if it's not a 100 pip move, you could catch like 40, 50 pips of it, and then you could probably catch the continued trend from higher time frames and maybe catch another 250 pips instead of worrying about the initial 100 pip move. I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people, for it to click.
100%.
Like, it's not like stocks where you can just, you know, if you're like traditional stock trading or whatever, where you're just buying it and then you sell it. Like, you can't make money off of just the entire sell off that's happening. Like, this is the foreign exchange market. You can make money off of even, like, you know, for example, gold consolidations, right? Where it's like small moves that are happening, but you're still able to make, you know, a good amount of money, obviously, because those 10, 15 pips, 20 pips, whatever it is, add up over time. You can literally make money off of buying or selling in this market. That's the click that a lot of people tend to miss.
Man, as a business owners or firefighters.
So here for GJ, real quick, because I will have to head out in like 7 minutes, but, you know, I'll keep you guys posted on any other trades that I end up taking. But for GJ, what I'm looking at essentially is, right now the news is going on. Obviously, there's like, they're not talking necessarily 100% about the interest rates or anything like that, right? But obviously they're giving you some form of a look into the economic outlook. So I think right now, from a technical perspective, price is breaking down, but as I'm looking at like the 30-minute and hourly time frames, we've had nice sell-offs. So what I need to see is that zone that we had marked off on the chart earlier, specifically, let's say around a 159 500 area. I want to see that being retested, at least on a 15-minute or a 30-minute time frame in the next like 2 hours or so, while there's still volume in the market, and then a push down from there. If that happens, then I'm looking for a trade anywhere from about 100 pips to maybe 150 pips, which is completely doable. 150 pips going down to like 180 level. And then you could hold it out for longer if price does continue retracing the 4-hour and daily pushes. But that's essentially what I'm looking at.
Absolutely.
And then gold is still holding on to that support in that 1922 area, 1923 area. So it is still consolidating, yes, but every time price kind of pulls back into that support and holds on to that zone, then I do think we have quick scalp, if not day trade opportunities. With that being said, does anyone have any questions about anything that we just went over today, or what to expect for the rest of the session?
We'll take a little tank. Yeah, it's that level right there. Any questions on YouTube, Sharma?
No, I don't see any questions on here yet.
Okay. Well, hopefully everyone's getting a lot out of it. Just got too many trades there for you.
Also, I apologize because I still see on my side at least, the YouTube kind of tripping up because it says scheduled instead of just saying live. So I hope it's live. I did ask the question. It seems like people are able to see it live, but if someone isn't, then I'm not really sure what's going on, but I'll look into the issue right when we're done here.
I forgot to mark this off. So once we push right through here, I close another little percentage.
Alright, so while you're doing that, another thing to add for the next couple of days, so Thursday and then also Friday, is that, so tomorrow on Thursday we have a lot of PMI data coming out, flash services and manufacturing for the Euro, for UK, and for the US. So you guys want to be pretty much trading that news. I think that's where the volume is going to be kicking in from. Obviously, if there's any sort of macroeconomics news, then watch out for that. But this week overall has been quite easy when it comes to economic data. So any moves that you're seeing, make sure you're looking at it from a technical perspective. For example, if you're looking at GJ right now, the last retest that we had here, like a proper retest, was in the 160 area. Now you're sitting around 159-200, right? So you've had a nice sell-off, so look at it from a technical perspective. Does it make sense for you to just look for any sort of impulsive sells right now? Probably not if there's no other news coming out. So wait for some of those retest areas and then look for those sells and line this up with the hourly, 4-hour, daily. One thing that I tell people as like a quick rule is that if you're like an hour and a half into the session already, stop looking at the 15-minute or 5-minute time frames. Like jump up to the 30-minute time frame, the hourly, the 4-hour, the daily, and then look for retest there and then continued moves down. You could go down to the 5-minute, 1-minute, 15-minute time frames like Stefanos is here to kind of get your confirmations of what's happening in the structure. But when it comes to like pure entry, I say like an hour and a half after the session has already opened up, just go up to a 30-minute time frame. Don't even bother with the 15-minute. Because if price does end up consolidating, the higher time frames will tell you that they're not ready to move just yet.
100%. And Kat, if you're in gold right now, I would just lower your risk because again we're printing sideways here. Mm-hmm. We do have kind of a semi trending market, but just be careful of what's it called? The range that we're in.
Alright, awesome. So if there's no other questions, then I gotta hop off. But if you guys have any questions at all, just feel free to reach out to either of us on Instagram at SharmaFX at StefanosFX28.
Yep. Absolutely, guys. Have a great day. I hope if you guys have any questions, just let me know, and we'll get at it.
Yes, sir. Alright, have a good one, guys, and then we'll see you guys next week for the week.